Now, sometimes you want to add a piece of content, but other times you want to add an important event from your life. So in order to make this easy, we've created a completely new type of content for these special life events. And the way you add these is the same. You just click on the timeline, you go to the major life event that you want to add. In this case, I'm going to add that I got a dog, which I did earlier this year. Fill out Beast's info, add a photo, and there we are. Beast joining our family. He's cute. So this is the main timeline. It's got all my stuff here. But what do you do if you want to see timeline filtered down to just one type of content? Well, you can click on these nice visual tiles at the top, and you can go to these filters that we've designed that what we call timeline views that take you to a view of timeline that just shows one type of content. So here's the photos timeline view. And you can see, here's some people working at Facebook, a friend graduating, game day at Facebook, some people visiting, everything there. It's much nicer than anything we have today. And I also want to show you this map timeline view. You can see everywhere that you've been on a map. It's really neat. You can see I spent a lot of time in California. There are a bunch of trips to New York to visit my family, Thanksgiving with the family in Florida, trips to Europe to come visit a bunch of our offices out there. It's all right there. And you can use the timeline slider on the right to see where you were in a period. This is earlier this year, and you can go all the way back to where you were born. It's pretty cool. I'll show you more timeline views in a bit. That's just two of them. So that's the overview of how you see all of your stories on timeline. Now I want to talk about apps and how apps are going to help you tell the story of your life on your timeline. People who use Facebook really love apps. When we first rolled out the platform in 2007, perhaps the most common thing that people used apps for was to add boxes of things that they wanted to their profiles. If you remember at the time, people had so many boxes. A lot of people had 50 or 60 or even 100 boxes. It was really crazy. It was way more than we expected. They just added them to the bottom of their profile, and it quickly became unwieldy. We learned from the experience that people really want to use apps to express themselves. And even though they couldn't all fit into the old profile design, we try to express as much content as you want on your timeline. So we think that people are going to want to express all kinds of things about their lives. And the way they're going to do this is they're going to rely on apps to help them out. So what kinds of content can I app to add that I'm cooking delicious bison burgers, which were delicious. And now, so that's just a normal story right there. Since timeline can help you summarize all your stories, no activity is too big or too small to share. So if you want, you can add a box of right to the top of all the recent stuff that you've done with an app. It's all right there. An app can help you do that. And because timeline summarizes things for you, this is one of those things that as it gets rolled up into a past time period is probably going to become one of those gray dots. Now, one of the big new things we've added is called reports. This is a report of everything that I've cooked so far in September. The idea here is that a lot of the time seeing a summary of what you've done is just a lot more interesting and better for expressing yourself than showing every single thing that you've done. So apps can help you roll up all the activity that you're taking into these nice reports. So you can get them every month and every year, and you just get a nice summary that it's really interesting and it helps you express who you are on your timeline. And we think that people are really going to like these. So I can just go ahead and click on any of those stories, and it'll take me to a timeline view where I can just see all of the content from my timeline all the way back in time. So if the app has added history to my timeline, you can just zoom back and you can see everything that I've ever cooked or the reports. It's all right here, all my timeline. So how do you add an app to your timeline? Well, you can add apps in all the same ways that you would have discovered apps before. But one way that we think that you're going to discover a lot of apps is from your friends' timelines. So here's Brett's timeline, and I see he has this nice running app that he's using to keep track of his runs. And I think that's pretty cool. So I'm just going to hover over it and click Add to Timeline, and I'm going to get this nice pop-up that, well, we're supposed to. Yeah, there we go. That is a nice line now around the idea that the reason why you're adding these apps is so that you can add stuff to your timeline. So it shows you the type of story that's going to be there, and I can just click on it, add to my timeline. It's right on my timeline. It's really easy. So that's how apps can help you tell the story of your life on your timeline. And I'm going to get into a little more detail about how to actually build these apps in a bit. Now, there's one more big piece. With Timeline, we didn't just want to design a place for you to put all your stories and apps. We wanted to design a place that feels like your home. Where you tell your story online is really personal. You invest a lot of time in it and you curate it. You link to it and you tell all your friends to find you there. So we wanted to make Timeline a place that you're proud to call your home. So Timeline is a completely new aesthetic for Facebook. And it starts with giving you the ability to highlight and curate all your stories so that you can express who you really are. So the first thing you're going to notice when you go to someone's timeline is this cover photo right at the top. What better way to tell the story of who you are than putting a nice big photo right at the top of your timeline? You still have your profile pic, so you can use your cover to express a unique moment from your life, something that you're interested in. It's just a great way to learn about who a person is without having to read anything about them at all. Now, you can change your cover as often as you'd like. And as we've been using this product internally, some people change it every day. It's really easy. You just go ahead, you hover over Reddit cover, you pick a new photo, you crop it, and boom, another cool beast photo. I just love the way his dad looks. I can't wait until he looks like that. So that's the top of your timeline. So what about highlighting important events from your life? Now, take this photo of me and Priscilla. This is from the first road trip that we took together. It's our first vacation. So it's a really meaningful photo for me. And I want to highlight it on my timeline. So how do I do this? Well, you can just hover over any story that you want on timeline. You get this star. And you can click it and you get a big version of the story that you can just feature on your timeline as a major event. And starring also tells timeline what is important to you, so that as it helps you summarize your past events, it just calls out all the important stuff and features all the stuff that you want it to. So of course, if there's something that you want to hide, like old wall post from a friend that's not relevant, you just hover over it and get rid of it. And if there's something that timeline missed because it's behind one of those gray dots, you just go ahead and you hover over the gray dot, and you can add it. It's right there. You have complete control over everything on your timeline. You can always you can control what's there, but you can also control who sees everything. So if you want to see, you can just glance over any story, and so you can see it, and you can change the privacy in line by just clicking on it, and there we go. This is a cool one, so let's make it public. So timeline is for you to express who you are. And you have complete control over your timeline, what you show there, how you display it, and who can see it. Now, one of the things that I've just found amazing with timeline is how different people's timelines can feel. Here's a traveler's timeline. And as you scroll through it, you can just see all these beautiful pictures from the trips that she's been on. It's really neat. It feels like her. It feels really unique. Here is a musician's timeline, and running through it, I mean, the nice cover right at the top, and you can see the instruments that they're playing, photos from their gigs, hanging out with the band. You just looking at this, I mean, without even getting into the content, you just get this nice visceral feel for who this person is. It feels really cool. Now, of course, I've showed most of the stuff today on web, just because with a bigger screen, it's easier to explain it, but all of this stuff just works beautifully on fully immersive mobile devices. And here's a runner's timeline on mobile. And again, you just see all the photos for running, all the way back to when she was a little kid. So that's timeline. It's